to play. It was so nice to play somebody who was good, and to represent the doomed youth of a lost generation, and a generation of gentlemen officers who adhered to a kind of chivalry and a code of honor that was never really seen again. And they'd inherited a value system from their fathers and grandfathers about the way war should be fought in the Boer War. I mean, up until this point, that's the thing we tend to forget, is cavalry charges were, on the whole, very, very successful, because they were terrifying. And all regiments of horse had advantage over regiments of foot, because you had pace, speed, and power, and height. And the British Army, in all of their innocence, thought that sending the cavalry over to northern France to teach the Kaiser a thing or two would be effective. And they really had no idea about the developments of the technologies of the German military and the extent of the use of the machine gun. And I really, like myself and Benedict Cumberbatch and Patrick Kennedy, really felt a sort of responsibility that inside this huge story, where you touch on the faces of so many different kinds of people in the First World War, we were those British officers that Siegfried Sassoon and Wilfred Owen wrote about, that never came home. So there was an innocence to it, and a humour too. I mean, there's a great banter between the three of us, and we're all quite competitive in before we go, who's got the fastest horse and all that stuff, and that was really fun. It was just
cap banter as well, yeah. About the cap.
A bit about the cap, yeah. It was all, they were very stylish young guys. I don't know if it's of any interest, but the three of us read the autobiography of Siegfried Sassoon called Memoirs of a Fox Hunting Man. And it made us realize that actually all the cavalry officers, they weren't professional soldiers. They were sort of country gentlemen used to living off the land who hunted in the winter, and the cavalry was sort of what they did to keep the horses fit in the summer. So it was a different kind of soldiery.
And there's a great sense of futility as well, of lives lost, of talents lost. I mean, Nichols is clearly a talented artist. Where did that come? Was that, Richard, was that your creation, or the fact that...
No, that's in the book.
That's in the book.
It's in the book and in the film, and I mean in the play, and it's very, very moving. And there are scenes which would have taken too long in the film, but I should say it comes from something that Michael Morpurgo said when he had interviewed ex-cavalrymen who had come home in the First World War at his local pub in Devon. They had said that the only people the officers felt they could talk to were the horses. And so the officers would go into the stables at night, and you could hear officers talking to their horses and sort of saying, I'm afraid and I'm scared and I don't know what to do. And the horses became these silent, mute confidants for the officers' terror. And in the book, Michael Morpurgo has Captain Nichols go into the stable at night to get away from the kind of bravado of the officers' mess, and he talks to Joey. And he sketches him while he's talking to him, and that Joey's, because the novel is told from Joey's perspective, it soothes him and it makes him feel safe, and he's not at home, he's not in Devon anymore, he's in this new environment with 300 other horses, 400 other horses. He's only seen 3 other horses in his life, but suddenly there's 300. It's like going to school for the first time, and Captain Nichols is there calming him down. Yeah.
Can I just say, I think that, because I can say it without any praise to myself, but the section, as it were, after you've drawn the horse, the section with Captain Nichols and the charges, I think is one of the most extraordinary bits of filmmaking I've ever seen. And there are a couple of very extraordinary things that Tom does in it, but it really there's some amazing things. We're very lucky to be around with a filmmaker as great as Stephen is, and when you watch it for the 3rd or 4th time, you're slightly in wonder at the grace and beauty of each shot and the way this extraordinary 10 minutes of filmmaking it comes together. I think my only contribution is the word charge, so I don't have to worry. But it's an amazing thing to watch. He is a great genius, and it's very easy, to sort of put things next to his work and say this is the way that Stephen works and what's the next Stephen film. But you are just watching someone who is as pitch perfect as the Beatles, as extraordinary the things that he lays before us as what you get on one of their albums.
Absolutely. And speaking of which, our next clip is the charge. Not all the charge, not all 10 minutes, but a couple of minutes at least. And how's that for a seamless segue? Roll the clip, please. Thank you. Just a taster, just a small taster. Yeah. But how was that the shoot? That was all on a soundstage in Luton, wasn't it? Or was it actually shot?
That was honestly one of the most exciting days of my entire life. Right. That day was the day...
This is a man who's kissed Ken Branagh.
Not just
repeatedly.
With or without tongues, because that's the...
It was incredible. We were lined up in the wheat field, which had actually been sort of transported from St Marshes onto the Duke of Wellington's estate, which is doubling as northern France. And I arrived at 7 o'clock in the morning, dressed in all my buckles and belts and whistles, ready to go. And they were rehearsing it with the stunt riders. And the first thing that happened, Stephen, that inimitable silhouette, the baseball cap, the beard, the barber, calls and said, "Tom, come and look at the shot." Yeah. And he shows me this thing that of essentially there was a stunt rider standing in for me, chasing a tracking vehicle, a 4x4 car, with a camera crane and the camera sort of hanging out the back of it, which is remote controlled, and 120 horses charging at 40 miles an hour across 400 meters of open field to an immaculately recreated German camp with 300 extras running away, and I was having, the stunt rider was having to stay within 10 feet of the lens, no further forward because he'd been out of focus, no further back, out of focus. And he said, "You good to do this, Tom?" I said, "Yes, sir," and got on this horse, and I could feel, horses are so sensitive, they can feel everything you're feeling. If they can sense fear, they can sense confidence, they can sense calm and peace, they can sense arrogance. The moment you have airs and graces, you're off. And I remember trying to my Joey was like a Ferrari. He was so sensitive. The moment you put your foot on the accelerator, it was just like, whoa. And he was pawing the ground, and, just like, he was ready to go. And I was like, whoa, boy, whoa, just take it easy. And the crew needed to take their time for focus marks and lights. Final things needed to be checked. And then eventually I heard this roll sound. I thought, my God, here we go. And I could see, like, 500-600 yards ahead of me was the end of where I was going to be. There are 30 horses fanning out to my left, another 30 behind me, 30 behind them. You could hear the swords and the metal clinking against the sides of the bridles and the saddles, and all of these horses doing this, and stunt riders going whoa, whoa, and just the noise of it. And I thought, this is about as real as it gets. Roll sound, camera speed, sound speed, camera set, and then on the bullhorn, Steven Spielberg, my childhood hero. "Okay, Tom, action!" And calling out the orders, which you see Benedict give in the film. And finally, once we're at full canter, raising my sword and screaming charge at the top of my lungs. And then the first thing I remember, if I remember anything, is the noise. Yeah. The noise of the hooves and the noise of 120 stuntmen screaming charge at the top of their lungs. And the wind in my face, and the feeling of essentially the miracle of human flight, letting this living, breathing Ferrari run, and feeling how excited the horse was, and how excited I was. This tracking vehicle tearing up to my left, and by the time I got to the other side, I just tears were streaming down my face, and there was no acting required. It was absolutely amazing.